from Tom. What's up, Tom? So Tom says, after sandblasting, do I need to do anything to prep the part, or can I go straight directly to DTM primer? You can go straight to primer after sandblasting. So if you make sure it's clean, right? Just make sure it's clean, blow it off. The only thing I would do is wipe it off. Okay, use like a wax and grease remover, wipe it all off, blow it off. You could even tack it and blast your primer on it. What is the best clear coat you recommend? You know, you can get the best depending on your budget. So what is your budget? You know, because you can get the best for under $150. You can get the best for under $300. You know, what's your budget? But if you're looking for an overall like medium grade good clear coat that I've been using Acme that comes from Sherwin-Williams, and I get it from Sherwin-Williams. It's an Acme brand clear coat, really good clear, no dieback at all, really, and it's about $110 per gallon kit here in Hawaii, and it's a lot cheaper probably in the mainland where you are. Compared to Matrix, I would say it's really good. I think it's better. I really like the the Acme from Sherwin-Williams. Thinking about starting some custom hard hats just to get my feet wet. However, I'll be playing around with personal vehicle after it leaves the shop. Awesome, Keith. Yeah, so anything plastic like that, you could just sand down and just base coat, clear coat super easily. As far as painting hard. Mirka long roll sticky for Durablocks. You can use whatever you want, really. They got Velcro, they got sticky. You could use sticky. I like Velcro. I used to like sticky, but I kind of like Velcro now. You know, you have to worry about the pads going bad with the stickiness and all that. And I think Velcro is a lot better because you can also get them wet. You know, if you want to wet sand, if you want to use your DA and kind of like wet sand a little bit, you could. But yeah, I still have a lot of sticky rolls left over that I need to switch out some of my pads and go through some of the sticky rolls that I have. But as far as sandpaper brands, I like Kovacs. Been using Kovacs for a while. Mirka is a good brand as well. You know, whatever works. You know, sometimes you're going to go through certain brands and you're going to figure out which ones are better, and you just go from there. What do you recommend for small businesses still working from home to get more consistent clients? You're talking about promoting your Autobody, right? Your shop, Robzilla. So I would basically just use social media marketing. Post, you know, create like a Facebook page for your shop. And start posting a bunch of before and after shots, you know, and just doing things like that in your local area. You could even run, run some sponsored ads, some posts on Facebook if you want to kind of pop up when people are looking for paint jobs and whatnot. Says, is epoxy primer good for going over bare metal that was cleaned up? Yes, epoxy is good for going over bare metal. Absolutely. Some 2K filler primers, like the one I got, you could go over bare metal as well. I'm using European genuine coatings, ECG, EGC. And it says that you can go right over bare metal. If I'm going to go over large bare metal, I'm going to use an epoxy primer and then followed with a 2K filler primer on top of it. You don't have to sand the epoxy, by the way. You can just let that cure, let it set for 2-3 hours, and then spray your 2K filler primer right on top of it. But if I have small areas, you know, like a little piece like that, bare metal showing, or some edges of a hood or a fender or whatever, then I'll just put the 2K right over it with no issues. Let's see. Painting, base, clear, and prep. So sometimes your spoilers or your aftermarket parts that you get are going to come pre-primed. All right. And in most cases, you could just literally just wet sand with 400 grit and paint right over it. Sometimes you want to make sure you know your foundation or what it is. So what I like to do if I'm doing a custom job or something for my personal project, um, I like to just reprime it myself. So I'll scuff it down with like a 320 grit, just sand it all down, get it kind of like rough with 320, 280, 320. I'll spray 2 coats of 2K filler primer on it. A good primer that I always use that I have some, left over that I mix up and spray on. I'll let that flash and then basically water sand that down. You could dry sand or wet sand. It's up to you. I like to wet sand. Fill in any imperfections if there's any rock chips or fiberglass gel holes or whatever you got, right? You're going to want to make sure you fill all that up, wet sand it down, and then paint it. Okay. So that's pretty much the process. Sagging runs. What's the best method on Clearcoat? All right. So you could literally get a razor blade. If you have some big drip runs, make sure it's dry. Okay. Give it a good, at least 2 days, I would think. Sometimes your clear is going to be soft. So if you're cutting it with a razor blade, just be careful, because sometimes as you're cutting it, you're literally going to peel off the whole run down to the base coat. That could happen. But on big drips, you can get a brand new razor blade, and you can just literally, what I do is I just slide it up the panel, and you can just cut them off, right? And then you can wet sand them down with like 800 grit to get it flat. And then you could go down to 15, 2000 and buff. If it's a darker color that you're buffing over, you can go down to 2500 to 3000. I normally don't go down to 3000. 25 will be my max, but you could go down to 3000 and then buff it out. Some people will lay, and I don't do that. I usually, I go by eye, or you can put a light coat of primer over your sag area and your run area. Okay. And then basically block it out. And as you sand, you're going to see the high spots cut down. And then whatever's not cut will be a low spots, and you'll see the primer as your back layer. You know what I mean? So the idea is to basically block everything out until your primer starts sanding off. And that's when you got it pretty flat and you could buff over. Okay. Generally, you want to buff over 2500 grit. No, 2000 grit. Okay. If you're going over darker colors, you can wash it down a little bit more, go down to 2500 grit, even 3000 if you choose to. After being, but not shaken yet, is it still good? It's probably still good as long as you mix it out. I would just reduce it, mix it really well, and if it looks good, then it should be okay. Test a small spot somewhere. Usually the clumps, the chunks will dissolve if you add a little bit of reducer and just mix it really well. You have to mix it really well though. If you can take it down and get it shooken, or shake it up a little bit, you could try that. But I don't. If it looks good, after you mix it up, if it looks good, then you're good. If it doesn't look good, if it starts separating inside because you got some water in it somehow, some condensation, I don't know, then you might want to just chuck it. Harold Schwinn says, I'm on my first project for 2 years. I guess I don't know what you mean by paint flashing. So paint flashing basically is letting it dry so you can put your next coat on it. Okay. So when I say primer flashing, it's like you're giving it the flash time so you can put another coat of primer on it, or it's dry enough to where you can sand it. Okay. Curing, letting it cure so you can sand it down and do what you got to do to it. sections, I'm guessing, left to right. Yeah, well, when you're painting, Keith, you're going to be painting a panel at a time anyway, unless you're doing like a candy paint job. But if you're doing a candy paint job on panels that are separated, just make sure you have good lighting. Make sure the panels are next to each other. So when you're painting and when you're doing a candy or whatever, you can look at each part and check out the consistency in color. That's how you do it. That's the only way to do it. Right? So if you go and you're a little light on this panel, after 2 coats, then you just got to probably just give it a little bit more, another coat or so to balance it out. Sean, are you saying you're going to be doing a two-tone? Are you two-toning it? So my question to you is, what type of paint is on it now? So you got flat black, but you want to two-tone it. Okay. I would use a fine line tape. It's called a fine line tape. Okay. It's going to give you a nice edge separation between your two colors. And they come in an 1/8 and a 1/4 inch. So you would use that. I would use the 1/4 inch to make your line. And then you would tape that with your paper to cover the rest of the hood or whatever. Okay. And generally, you're going to be using a good masking tape. The 3M yellow 3/4 masking tape is a good tape, or American brand masking tape. I have American brand currently in the garage. Harold says, thanks, much understand now. I think I've been doing 2 coats too soon. Appreciate it. Yeah, you want to make sure your first coat is pretty much set up, and ready to accept your second coat. You don't want to spray over it when it's still super wet. You want to let that dry up a little, and give it another coat. Usually primer 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes if you're spraying a 2K. Around 15 minutes, you should be good for your next coat. Okay, of course it depends on your temperatures and all that, but we're talking about spraying in 75 to 85 degrees. Hopefully this helps. I need help sourcing paint. They want $550 plus tax for a quart of PPG base. That's a lot of money, man. Is it red? What color is that? It's got to be red. And 4 liters of clear here in Northern Canada. Are there online stores where I can purchase coatings? You can check out TCP Global. There's got to be, I would just Google it. You're in Canada. I'm not sure what the stores they got in Canada. But you could try eBay. You could pick up a gallon kit of Clearcoat pretty inexpensively. Yeah, I knew it. Reds are the most expensive color ever made, because it's just the pigments and everything that's needed to make red. It's the most expensive. That's why I said, is it red? But that's a lot of money. One thing you could do if you want to cheapen out a little bit is don't get the highest brand. Why don't you go for like an Omni Plus brand instead of PPG? Omni is the cheaper sub brand of PPG. You can get but you can get not getting the cheapest Omni. You can get something called Omni Plus, which is a better base coat. That, because sometimes you can't even make certain paints in the cheap Omni, but if you upgrade to Omni Plus, no selection. Yeah, that's tough, man. I don't know what to tell you there. Yeah, you're just gonna have to call around other paint shops. What paint shop are you calling? Your local Autobody paint shop, or who are you dealing with? Is it your personal car or what? Because if it's a customer's car, I mean, hey, customers got to pay for it. In Canada has paint. You might want to try that. CarQuest. Yeah, why don't you try Napa? Claude, Napa makes paint as well. They make they will make you PPG paints. So they sell PPG there. David says, what is the best way to apply candy, like walking around the car if I got to paint the whole car? Yes. and we covered that in VIP. We did the Miata series in candy red. David, aren't you VIP, David? Well, when you're doing candy, you're gonna want to walk the length of the car, so you don't have to go around the car. But if you're spraying the side of the car, you're gonna want to make sure you go down the whole side of the car. Okay, go down the side of the car, the hood, the front end. You're gonna want to just do the whole front end at one shot. You know what I mean? And just make sure you have good lighting. Good lighting is super, super important. Okay. That's why I highly recommend the Gun Bud Ultra lighting system. Snaps onto the front of your gun, and you can see everything while you paint. And this is what it looks like right here. Okay, check it out. They're on Amazon, on eBay. Good price. David, I don't mind. Send me a video. You know what you plan to do with your candy paint job. I'll be, I can make a video reply helping you out. But watch the Mazda Miata series. We're also going to be doing candy on this little excavator that I have out here. It's probably going to be the first candied excavator on the island here, and we're going to record that thing as well. Probably going to go with a purple candy on pieces and parts of the excavator. I think it'll look super, super cool. We'll go with a bright purple. Purple and yellow look good anyway. The red Miata is candy. Yep. And what color candy are you doing, David? Because if you're a newbie and you're painting candy, it's highly recommended to spray a candy over a similar color. So if you're going to be doing a red candy, you want to come out with a red looking car, then get a red base coat, spray your whole thing red, okay, and then go over with your red candy. It's going to make it a lot easier for you to blend your candy and spray your candy because your foundation is already red. Okay, if you're going to be doing it over the silver, you better be very, very good when it comes to laying on candy. Your overlap, you're going to want to overlap a little bit more. It's not like a 50-50 overlap like base coats and clear coats. You're going to want to do like a 75% overlap, okay? And you're going to want to be consistent, okay? Your spray gun speed and distance is going to be super crucial. So I would only recommend doing candy, David, if you've actually painted a car before in regular base coat, clear coat, at least, a couple times. But as long as you got spray gun settings, distance, and speed, down pat under your belt where you're comfortable without running, then yeah, go for the candy job. Unless you're doing something smaller, if you're doing like a little gas tank or a single part, then just test it out. But I'm going to do a blue pearl on black. Okay, so that's not really candy. You're going to be doing a blue pearl on black base coat. That's not really candy. I thought you were talking about candy. Economic situation is affecting everything. Everybody's getting affected. But the key is to basically just give people what they want. And people are always going to be looking for good, dependable cars. So if you can scoop up good, dependable cars, add your value add to it, your little paint job or a little fender repair or a little tune up or whatever you're doing, and raise up that profit margin for yourself, then you're going to do fine. There's no matter what the economy is, if you know what you're doing, if you know how to do it, you're always going to make money. So I don't think you should think about or worry about the economy, because people still have to live. People still need a place to live. People still need cars to drive. People still need cars repaired. All right. People still have their pride. They're not going to be driving down beaters unless they're absolutely really broke and they can't do anything. But, a lot of times people, do have vanity and they want to look good, Sir, should I be using a high volume, low pressure or low volume, low pressure gun? I've been using a high volume, low pressure for primer. Um, it all depends on your compressor size. So if you're going to be spraying a lot, you know, and you want to stretch the volume from your tank, you're going to want to use a low volume, low pressure. Okay. But generally, base coats are high volume, low pressure. And then with clear coats, you can spray with a low volume, low pressure. Primers, it really doesn't matter because you're spraying primer at a lower PSI overall anyway. Okay. Anywhere from 18, 16 even, depending, 16 to 20, 22. That's the pressure you're spraying primer at because it's not really about atomization. You just want to get the material on it and wet. Many coats? Well, yeah, there could be too many coats of clear. You don't want to overdo it. I would say, I mean, generally, it's you're going to be putting on custom candy paint jobs or on custom jobs. Normally, it's 4 coats of clear, okay? Because you're giving it your 2 coats, you're letting that set, you're cutting it down, and then you're putting 2 more coats on top of that, and then you are color sanding and buffing that. But overall, basic paint jobs, 2 medium wet heavy coats, and you're good to go. What type of clear is good for metal flake? The best clear that you can get within your budget is the best clear coat that you can get. So it really doesn't matter. Okay. It doesn't matter. You could put flake in any clear coat, and you can flake it out. You could put flake in an inner coat. If you're a newbie, I would recommend putting flake into an inner coat clear, which is like a clear base coat. You mix your flake in, and then you spray it on evenly. You could reduce chances of running because if you mix it in clear coat, you're going to get that flake run, which you're not really going to be able to sand. You can sand it flat, but you're going to still see that flake run. A lot of projects coming down the pipeline, guys. Stay tuned. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hit that like button before you leave. And I'll see you guys on next week, same time, for more Autobody Q&A. And we'll probably be in the garage next week so I can show you the primed parts and whatever projects we got going on in there. Peace out, guys.